Hey guys, it's Rachel from the Little Green Lamb, and today I have a book review on Ranger Games by Blum. And basically, this will be a no spoiler review. I do have some kind of discussion points of it, but that's more about the context of the book, so that won't really spoil though much because you basically know the story and it's analyzing the story. But in case you're new to my book reviews or just need a refresher, I rate my books in 5 different categories: plot, characters, cover, suspense, and overall in terms of reading again very soon, 5 out of 5, not so soon, 1 out of 5. So basically, this book is a bit different. Like, it feels weird reading this one because if you've watched my channel before, you know I kind of stay away from reading memoirs because I kind of feel like I'm judging someone's life. Like, it's kind of weird to be like, your memoir is a 4 out of 5. Like, just kind of feels weird to me. It's like reading somebody's diary, like, you know? But, yeah. So this book, basically, if you don't know, this book is a nonfiction book. It's basically about Ben's cousin Alex. So I'm trying to look to make sure I don't spoil anything. But basically Alex was like the all-American boy, you know, Boy Scout. He could do no wrong. He was popular with his friends. He was a school hockey star. He had it all going. He had the nuclear family and, you know, the white picket fence. Everything was going great for him, and he had one goal in his life, which was basically become a U.S. Army Ranger and fight terrorists for his country. He poured everything into achieving this dream, and in the first hours of his final leave before he would have been deployed to Iraq, Alex was supposed to fly home to see his family and his girlfriend, but instead got into his car 2 fellow soldiers and 2 strangers, drove to a local bank in Tacoma, and committed armed robbery. So this was a true case, and certain things are very interesting in this book because they do, like, for example, Alex actually was on Dr. Phil's show, and I couldn't find any clips online, so if you guys have any clips that you found, but I couldn't find any on YouTube. But Ben kind of translates what's happened on the show in the book, and there's some transcript, like actual quoted pieces from what they said, and certain segments that they do talk about actually are on YouTube. So it's basically, if somebody's in a uniform, do you do what they say? And it was very interesting. That's not really what the segment was exploring, but that's pretty much, like, if you're looking at it from just like a plain point of view, that's kind of what it seems like. At first I thought it was more like pranks because it kind of looks like pranks. But it's basically one cop would be standing here and be like, if that guy moves, tase him. And like the person would tase him because he moved. And it's like, well, why'd you listen to this guy? Just because he was wearing a uniform. He didn't show you a badge. Like, that kind of thing. So it's like trusting authority figures. So basically the big message of this book is, or not message, but kind of the exploration is, was Alex truly brainwashed by, oh my gosh, and I'm forgetting his name. And he's like the main person that, I don't know why I'm forgetting. Like, I can see it. Elliot. So it's like, was he actually brainwashed by Elliot, who was his, I'm forgetting the terms again, but basically Elliot was higher up in the ranks. I think that'd be correct to say. And was he actually brainwashed, or was he actually aware of what he was doing when he did commit armed robbery? Now, Alex, in this book, you learn that he was the getaway driver. So there's a lot of different explorations when it comes to the people inside the bank versus the getaway driver, how much time they should get in jail, what should their punishment be. And this explores, it's really exploration of somebody's mental state and how when you're, and the mental state that you get in once you're training and you're in that training mode all the time. And this book, I would say, before I even get into reading, because I know I've been rambling on and on and on, but this book, like, if you are somebody who, like, I'll just say my point of view. So I'm somebody who, I think, like, everybody who gives up their life for this country is, like, in my books, I don't see any wrong in that. Like, I'm not going to criticize the people. Do I necessarily love the institution of war and, like, having an army? I understand the need for it because, like, if we don't have an army, then we're defenseless. I get that. Do I think sometimes wars are started for capitalistic reasons? Yes, not always for peace. Not that war necessarily causes peace, but can help cause peace. Like, I have some very conflicting viewpoints on war, but with the people themselves, as long as they do not cause undue harm and they're actually performing their job, they're not, like, going and terrorizing people, like, they are doing what they were supposed to do and they have a good heart about it, even though, like, it is obviously a really, really tough job, then I don't see any wrong in it. So I'm not somebody, like, wholly against it, but also I'm somebody who's very skeptical of institutions, such as government institutions. So I have that kind of, you know, going. Like, I believe in a lot of conspiracy theories, for example. So that's where I kind of fall on the spectrum, in case you're similar. But if you're somebody who's like, the war can do no wrong, the army is great, and you can't see maybe the negative aspects of it as well as the positives, then I would say this book would probably infuriate you. You definitely have to have an open mind, especially if you are leaning one way. For example, Alex was so passionate about joining, being a ranger. And I'm not somebody who's ever experienced a passion for war or the army. And I've never really been close to somebody who has, I've never actually even been close to somebody who has gone in the army, let alone had a passion for it. So it's very interesting hearing his reasons why he wanted to go into the army. And I found that something I don't hear about often. I don't hear a lot about armies and war and stuff in my regular life because it's not the information I sought out. And it's just something that doesn't, like, I don't like go and look up news articles and look like that because it just makes me sad, I guess. So that's kind of where I fall on it. I know this is not really about me, but, you know, in case you have similar viewpoints and you weren't sure how this book was going to go, I found it to be a very good exploration. It talked about the positive aspects and the negative aspects. It didn't really lean one way. It didn't go, the army's great, but it didn't go, the army sucks and it's horrible. Like, it was a very good, you know, kind of look at the institution in general, which I did appreciate. All that being said, I did rate the book 5 out of 5. This book, I was just glued to it. I was reading it because a lot of the time when I was reading this book, I was starting at 12 o'clock in the afternoon for work. So I would get up like at 8 and I'd read like 8 till 9:30. And I really enjoyed my time reading this book. It did have some parts where I was like, this is a bit slow, but for the most part, I really did enjoy. It was pretty fast paced. It did have an interesting exploration. They not only delved into Alex's case, but they delved into Elliot's case. And Elliot I find very fascinating. And these are real people, and it's hard to remember that sometimes when you're reading. But they also delved into like other mental health stuff. So like, what makes somebody a psychopath? What would brainwashing and what would brainwashing constitute? That's probably not even the right phrase. But it goes into all different sectors, and it goes into what his family was feeling, how they felt seeing him in jail, how somebody so good can do something so bad. And that topic really got me into this book. I think this topic was explored really, really well, because sometimes we see people as elevated and that they're better than us, but they also have their weaknesses and they can succumb to peer pressure just like the rest of us. And I'm somebody who's like follow the rules and do all that, so I was just like placing myself in his shoes and like, what would I do like if I just went over the edge and was just like, you know, did something that is potentially putting other people in harm. And not that I'm thinking about doing that obviously, but like when you're somebody who follows the rules and you see somebody else who veers off path, you really wonder what happened. And that is what this book's exploring. What happened to make Alex do this? And it's not only the author exploring Alex's, but we get Alex's viewpoint, him trying to come to terms of what has happened and what has transpired, which I found very interesting. For characters, give a 5 out of 5. I felt this book really delved in. It is a thick book. Like, it's pretty hefty. It's like 435 pages, I believe. Something around that. And it just goes in. And we not only learn about Alex's perspective, who was the one in it, but we learn about his cousin Ben, who's writing this book, his father, his siblings, his friends, his girlfriend, the other people who did the armed robbery. And we learn kind of also what happened to them, what their sentences were. We get closure of all that. We find out what happened to Alex, but it's a lot digging into, was Alex brainwashed or was he fully conscious of what was going on? And then they look into the brainwashing in armies and how when you're in that mode, if somebody in upper ranks tells you to do something, you better do it or you're going to get punished. And it just goes through that, and it's just so interesting because it's not, when you're reading a book that talks a lot about mental states, they can get quite jargon filled, and I found this book had a good levels between heavy jargon that might not be very digestible for most people, and adding a story element to make it digestible for people. And I found that really good because I'm not in a psychology program. I don't know very much when it comes to brainwashing and the technical terms and the studies that have come. Cover, I give the cover a 1.5. I'm not a big fan of this cover. Like, I get it had to be simple because, like, it just had to be. But, like, the back has, like, all these quotes, which I really do enjoy. But this book is really text heavy. Like, this is, like, the synopsis right here. Then it goes ... Then we have the full synopsis on the inside. And I think we have a little bit on this side. No, it's just the author's thing. But it just, like, but I really love, the thing I love about this book, the gold. I love some gold. I really love how it has the paragraph on the front that catches your eye, and it has a story of soldiers, family, and inexplicable crime. And this book, I might not have noticed this first if it hadn't been for this text on the cover. I saw this online actually on Chapters. It was one of the popular books, and if I saw a book called Ranger Games, I probably wouldn't pick it up just because, once again, not my interest. But I'm really happy it was seen as a popular book, and I've seen it all over the bookstore now when I go there, but I don't hear anybody talking about it, which is really a shame. I like the spine. It's just like, it doesn't stand out too much, and I get like it's not supposed to be like one of those like really pretty covers, but I really like this for some reason. It just reminds me of like old sports uniforms, like baseball specifically. I think I said that wrong. But anyway, suspense, I give a 5 out of 5. I really enjoyed this book for the suspense levels. Like, I didn't know anything about this case, so I would suggest if you're reading this book to go into the case blind. And then after I finished the book, I actually looked up articles about the case. There wasn't very much I could actually find online in comparison to like what I thought I'd be able to find because there's so much in this book. But I would definitely go into this book blind and not look up the articles about this book before you read it, because I feel like it would take away from the story almost, then you'd be filled with all the technical stuff. So I think it's better to experience it not only as a technical look at it, but also as a story at the same time. And overall, I give the book a 5 out of 5 for rereadability. Like, whenever I think about this book, there's just so much to unpack and so much you could go through. Like, you could just look at, for example, the brainwashing, or you could look at the army element, or you could look at psychopaths, and there's so much you can depict and dissect from this book and go off and do some external research about that, or additional research about that. So yeah, that has been my book review on Ranger Games by Ben Blum. If you guys have read this, let's discuss in the comments, and yeah, if not, I definitely recommend picking this one up, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.